Hello again, you gorgeous bastards. Today's video is about why situations in places like Drumshanbo, where Drumshanbo is now internationally notorious as being a place against free speech and Irish culture, and children there are not safe at all from fellas in woman face dressed like prostitutes grooming children into signing petitions without any parental supervision by either the summer school, without their parents' knowledge, takes place and happened. And why John Shambo will never live down what happened when they banned the Misha Era Festival. And why the decent people, and I've no doubt many of the people in Drumshanbo are decent people, have to start asking questions of who facilitated the tiny number of eccentrics who brought international shame upon your town. You're even all over things like The Spectator and magazines like that today. Why did it happen? It happened because if you could put everything wrong with Ireland into three letters, it would be RTE. RTE, for those of you, and the vast majority of my listeners are international, RTE is the national television station of Ireland. Broadcasters, they also do radio stations. They're equivalent to the BBC in Britain in that they're allowed to also get ad revenue as well as enormous amounts of taxpayer money for basically protecting politicians from accountability, so lessons can be learned instead of any real consequences. And I think last year they got the best part of €1 billion. Yes, so nearly €1 billion between a government sweetener and the regular payout from the broadcast tax to basically do this. Now, Ireland has you'd have to go to somewhere like North Korea to understand the pernicious nature of the Irish mainstream media. There is literally nothing other than RTE, and all the other media outlets. Excuse me, all the other media outlets, the Irish Times, the other radio and TV stations, are populated by people who are lobbying to get a job in RTE because that's seen as where you go. So basically, everyone in the Irish Times, News Talk, Virgin FM, Today FM, they're all lobbying, and all the regional papers, everything, they're all lobbying through their current employment to try and get a job in RTE. Now, the reason for this is Christian Morris has brilliantly pointed this out. That once a gay man, by the way, just so you know, he's a gay man and a friend of mine. RTE, when you get a job in RTE, you don't go in there to start your career. You go in there for your retirement because it is a lifelong job, regardless of how incompetent you are, how much you fail. You got a job for life. And that's why it's basically the broadcasting element of the civil service. Every single person who works in RTE is essentially a civil servant. Now, RTE, because it receives this vast amount of government money, it employs very mediocre and talentless people who are often from families where they got the jobs because their previous generation was working in RTE or connected to RTE in some capacity or the establishment. They have made Ireland a nation of impulsive simpletons. Now, listen to that. Ireland is a nation of impulsive simpletons because the entire worldview that they have, most Irish people, is completely determined by what RTE tells them. There is literally nothing else in this world unless it's on RTE. And that is the sum total of all world knowledge. And it creates impulsive simpletons who do things like drive a truck into the Russian embassy when the Ukraine war started. A simpleton drives a truck in there, basically an act of war. A Father Ted like freak show priest paints on the Russian embassy walls a protest. No, it creates simpletons of very low intelligence and very low understanding who have no sort of inner sense of self and able to make reference points with anything else. And they think that the little tiny microcosm they live in is the sum total of all reality experiences on this earth. And that is RTE's only function, and by extension, the rest of the Irish mainstream media. This came into stark, observation for me this morning. There was a clip that someone had played, a very funny clip, of the American TV show, I don't know what it's called, where you have to guess, that it was also done on the BBC as well. It's a game show where you have to name a famous thing. Survey says, and they list what the survey says is, and you win if you correct the highest number on the list. So, like, that kind of thing. And the question was, name a famous Irishman. Now, this brought home two things. There really wasn't many famous Irish people in the American cultural context back in the 1970s or early 80s, whenever this was filmed. This was before U2 and all that stuff. And so that was one thing, okay? That was interesting enough. But this was posted to a Facebook group, and they had to name people, famous Irish people. Now, people were saying things like Bono and this kind of thing, and then there was and Pierce Brosnan and Cillian Murphy, and then people were saying, no, they weren't known back when this TV show was broadcast. But what's amazing was there's a certain kind of outfella, a boomer, basically had his whole life had been determined by RTE. Now, there was numerous, not just one or two, who said things like, Mike Murphy, that's an RTE presenter, unknown outside Ireland. Gay Bourne, an RTE presenter, unknown outside Ireland. He did a small thing on Granada TV in Manchester decades ago, and no one knows who he is now. They were naming RTE or Irish Gaelic sports people, DJ Carey, Pat Spillane. There's some total of their existence in terms of what they knew about the world was completely myopic due to RTE's mind control. They had no understanding of the rest of the world. This is why the Irish Normies are in a psychotic level of Trump derangement syndrome, because they're told 24/7 Orange Man is bad. They can't. They're not able to think. They're not allowed to think anything else. And if they were to go to America and say, Trump will fucking eat you, and then about more than half the Americans would go, don't talk about our great president like that, they would probably die of a heart attack on the spot. They would probably die of a heart attack. Or if you told them that, that's terrible about the Ukrainians, and you say, what about the 3.5 million Ukrainians who went to Russia to be safe? They would probably die on the spot if you told them that. RTE at the moment is literally 24 hours Gaza. 24 hours. It's like kneecap on steroids. And it borders on vicious anti-Semitism at times. To the point where we have the President of Ireland, the leprechaun, the communist leprechaun, Michael D Higgins, telling a bunch of Holocaust survivors that you're all genocidal bastards at a Holocaust event, and then was shocked when all these people stood up and protested and walked out. Could you imagine there was a foreign dignitary was at an Irish famine memorial and said, well, your paddies were too stupid to grow anything else other than potatoes. That's literally what he did. And Higgins was stunned and shocked by the international reaction. So this worldly poet and man of letters still had the same fucking mentality as some gobshite in South Dublin who's a lovely man and thinks like, everything on RTE is the absolute unbridled truth and there's no variation in that. And when they encounter life beyond the borders of Ireland, of the Republic of Ireland, they can't believe that people in other countries don't know about who, that Patrick Kilty split up with Cat Deely. They don't know. They're amazed when they find out. When they say people like, they talk about Brian Dobson, the newsreader on RTE, and people in America go, who? He's the newsreader on RTE. What? What's RTE? This is literally what RTE generates in this country. Myopic simpletons who, instead of being able to apply measured thinking and a balance of thought, become impulsive simpletons who are very frightened of opinions that may challenge what RTE bombards them with 24/7. Now, what's going on with the Gaza thing right now is pretty as clear as day. The Irish government is trying to brainwash the Irish people into accepting hundreds of thousands of Arab Muslims from Gaza resettling here. That's all about. That we see them as our own. And it started with the MI5 Operation Sinn Féin, parading Palestinian flags, Hamas flags, at the 100th anniversary. At the 100th anniversary of the founding of our state, the Easter Rising, at the GPO in Dublin. Could you imagine Americans flying Hamas flags or ISIS flags in their hundreds on the Capitol lawn in the next American centennial independence thing? But that happened in Ireland. And what took place with Sinn Féin and their seas of Hamas flags in 2016? It continues into the Mayflower Centre and Drumshambo. They don't understand the world as if they all thought that would. They all thought by catering to a handful of oddballs. And again, you people in Drumshambo, you decent people, don't be blaming me. Don't be blaming other people who were involved in that event for what happened. Blame the ones who opened the lid and stirred up shit and made the name of your town muck. RTE isn't covering it. But guess who is? International media. And from what I'm gathering, it's going to get even bigger. Don't blame anyone but yourselves and the ones who brought it upon you. Now, secondly, thirdly or fourthly or fifthly, whatever, this myopic mentality is damaging Ireland very badly on a global level. The Trump derangement syndrome, the hatred of Israel. We should have no business in any of this stuff. It's unfortunate that what's going on in Israel and Palestine. It's awful for ordinary people on both sides. It's awful what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. But Irish politicians have this delusional psychosis that they are the moral conscience of the world, and that the whole world sits back and waits to hear what Simon Harris, Jack Chambers, Micheál Martin has to say about global world offence, as if they're sitting in the Kremlin. Oh Jesus, what will Pascal Donahue say? This is literally how they think. And RTE's job has the Irish people believing the same. That when Trump is signing a document on global trade, that Trump is going, in the Oval Office, he's going, guys, I don't know if I should really sign this. And they go, why not? And they go, the Social Democrats in Ireland might be upset about it when they're painting their fingernails in the Palestinian flag. Now, that's not an exaggeration. That's literally what goes on in this country. That's myopia weaponized. That's mediocrity weaponized. It's astonishing, but that's what goes on in the world. Let me tell you a story. Back in the 80s, I was traveling across Oklahoma and Texas, and I saw a town called Shamrock, Texas. And I went into a diner called the Shamrock Diner. And just for a laugh, we said, I've come a bunch of paddies, let's go in there and just blow their minds. You go in, and the waitress heard us, goes, oh gee, I love you guys' accents, where are you from? And they go, we're from Ireland. And they go, gosh, I never heard of that place. So if you have a government who thinks the whole world is waiting on them because maybe some EU big shot or Bill Gates said something nice about them, and that's another thing, they're lobbying for lobbying for approval. Irish politicians, county councillors, and everything, in the same way Sinn Féin county councillors have destroyed the reputation of Drumshambo in the eyes of the world. Irish politicians will gladly have this country nuked, in order to appease a foreign diplomat on the other side for a pat on the head. And that goes all through this country. Cave Mina Fáilte has been weaponized into stamp all over us. And the incubator of this myopic industry of self-destruction that sits in the fabric of every corner of this culture is RTE broadcasting and the people who work for it. I remember when the lockdowns first started for COVID, RTE, when fake news was the big thing, like fake news meant don't look at anything that might make you think for yourself. Just believe the talking heads on TV. RTE ran an ad about fake news, and there was all these characters like mentally ill conspiracy theorists. But you know who the main characters were now? Two guys dressed like two Celtic warriors, to suggest that anyone who's coming from an opinion that represents our ancient traditions and cultures, our mythology, our heroes, were to be as untrustworthy as people who are packy bashers or queer bashers and anything like that. It's all part of the whole trajectory now, started with the former Prime Minister Leo Varadkar, to imply that the Irish flag is a far-right symbol and it should be replaced with another flag. Now, occasionally they get a wake-up call, but they never learn. So, you know, the Paddy who gets laughed at talking about he's a bunch of Americans, and he goes, "Oh, do you remember Bosco?" And they go, you know, you have things on RTE like the Late Late Toy Show, which has no other purpose than to keep Irish adults infantilized, and you have grown middle class adults sitting there in their with no kids, sitting there in their one piece pajamas, watching a TV show where a guy's singing about the latest Barbie doll, and they're all like going with a glass of wine, going, "I'm a Barbie girl in a." That's Ireland. That's Ireland. And there's very little else to it other than that. And anyone else who's not like that, the people like me and others, we're considered the most dangerous people in this country. Why? Because we read books, we look at other sources, we consider both points of view, we have rational arguments, we debate things, we look objectively with our own eyes, we try to see things from points of view that are not demarcated within the parameters of the RTE civil service sphere. That's it. But occasionally they get a wake-up call. For instance, when Micheál Martin, the Irish Prime Minister, went to the White House before Paddy's Day, he was insulted by Trump because they all knew what an asshole he was. And as we said, your dad was a fighter, wasn't he? You know, like that. Well, that's what an insult that is. You know, it's like you're a loser, aren't you? Not like your dad. That's what he said to Micheál Martin, and rightly so. And rightly so. And then this, on Paddy's Day, you have the Deputy Prime Minister, Simon Harris, leading some meaningless Irish American parade. And who's in the White House? Conor McGregor. Now Conor McGregor has basically suffered the same fate in Ireland as Trump did with Russiagate. The media here has just basically decided that he's the most evil creature that ever lived on the face of the earth because he's broken from the RTE narrative. And they didn't even have enough. They didn't, we spoke about that already, but it doesn't matter. Even if that event regarding the civil trial never happened, they would still find something else. But So they get a fright. But they get a momentary fright. And like a child who's been chastised, like the whole thing in school, the teachers, the little bastard pupil is causing a disruption, and the teacher goes, "Johnny, don't do that. It's not right to the other kids." And then he runs home, "Mommy, the teacher was bad to me." And then the mother goes to the parents and goes, parent goes to the teacher and goes, "My little Johnny is a living saint." This is how Irish politicians work as well. When they were chastised by Trump, did they come home and have a reflection and think, no matter what you say, USA is still the most powerful economy in the world. It's growing. It's the most powerful military in the world. Our entire economy is based on American companies in Ireland, and even they are helping Trump. Do we change how we think about things and come back to Ireland and try to develop a more measured thing? No, RTE was filled with nothing but Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are wonderful. Trump is Orange Man, it's bad. And then the politicians run to the EU to have the EU go, "My EU mammy says I'm wonderful." And the consequences for the people and the nation of Ireland is irrelevant, because the mediocre jester who's been selected to be prime minister of this country or president runs like his mammy goes, like, "My little Johnny, my little Mihal wouldn't do that. My little Simon wouldn't do that." And that's RTE. And those of you who are the 1,000 new subscribers that have come to this channel in the last 24 hours, if you are Irish, welcome, because you now have an opportunity to broaden your horizons and not being a total RTE incubated simpleton.